What's going on, Pokemon fans? Today I want to talk about the top 10 most impactful Pokemon from Gen 9, the ones that really left an impression on us and made an impact. Let's go over the criteria we're using here. Will I remember the Pokemon going forward? Do they have a cool design? Are they a unique Pokemon in terms of types, moves, or abilities? Has it impacted the competitive scene? And is it just generally fun to use? Now we're a long ways away from Generation 10, so this list could change, but these are the newly introduced Pokemon that I feel are going to leave the biggest mark. Number 10, Garganacl. Surprised to hear that one? Well, you shouldn't be. The Minecraft-like evolution line was really unique in terms of design, and it was also a very special rock type. Now, rock types are known for their rock-hard defenses, as Brock would say, but on the special side, they generally wilt like a dying flower. Not Garganacl, though. It has all the right kinds of bulk, not to mention a really cool move in Salt Cure that whittles down Pokemon that rock types are weak to. It also has an ability completely unique to itself in Purifying Salt, which protects you from status conditions and halves damage from ghost moves. Also, if you're a particularly evil person, you could run Iron Defense, Body Press, and Salt Cure with Protect and Leftovers, and basically never lose in an in-game playthrough, so the Rocky Cube gets 2 thumbs up from me. Number 9, Tinkaton. I mean, you can't say that design isn't unique. The little pink Pokemon with the giant hammer is a rare Fairy Steel-type Pokemon, which is an insanely good typing. Like, it's actually absurd. 9 resistances, 2 immunities, and only 2 weaknesses, and firing off its signature move is probably the most fun you'll have playing Pokemon. Gigaton Hammer is a 160 base power Steel-type move. It looks cool, and it packs a punch. Tinkaton's kind of oddly distributed stats, and particularly low attack stat, left it out of the VGC scene, but I think it hits enough boxes on our list to be considered one of the most impactful Pokemon from Gen 9. I think people will jump at the chance to grab a Tinkatink if they see it wandering around through the grass of a future Pokemon game. Number 8, Pawmot. The Pokemon Company regularly tries to recreate Pikachu, the first ever electric rodent, with varying degrees of success. I definitely think they nailed it with Pawmot. The design is great. Basically, if you combine a Pikachu and an Ewok, you'd end up with a Pawmot. I believe it's also the first ever electric fighting type Pokemon. It's fantastic for an in-game playthrough. It evolves early, it's fast, and hits hard to go along with powerful moves like Double Shock and Close Combat, and great coverage to go along with those moves like Fire Punch, Ice Punch, and Play Rough. It also has the first ever revival move in Revival Blessing, where you can revive a fainted Pokemon during battle. I know Rabsca gets that too, but let's be honest, you didn't even know Reller or Rabsca even existed during your Scarlet and Violet playthrough. Pawmot hasn't seen a lot of run competitively in Gen 9, but I wouldn't be surprised if it gets some use in some VGC events in future generations, since it has access to Fake Out, Revival Blessing, and Double Shock. I used Pawmot on my first journey through Paldea, and it turned out to be a key member of the team. Number 7, Armarouge and Ceruledge. Can we have one without the other? I'm not sure, but I think the 2 version exclusive Fire-type Pokemon generated a lot of excitement for in-game playthroughs. I know I was looking for a cute little Charcadet when I started my journey. Now, there's nothing unique about a Fire Psychic type or a Ghost Fire type, but the designs are fabulous. Ceruledge in particular is one of the neatest looking Pokemon they've ever made, in my opinion. It also gets access to Bitterblade, a 90 base power Fire type move that gives you recovery when you use it. I believe that's the first Fire-type move that can do that. Armarouge actually saw plenty of play on the competitive scene with Expanding Force hitting both sides of the field. Next to Indeedee, that combination single-handedly won matches for some. It also has a super powerful Fire-type move in Armor Cannon, which has the added benefit of a cool animation firing off from Armarouge's arm cannons. 2 really cool Pokemon. I started off Gen 9 preferring Ceruledge, but these days, I'm more of an Armarouge fan. Either way, you can't go wrong with either of these fire types. Number 6, Annihilape. Speaking of cool designs, hello Mr. Rage Monkey. Pokemon doesn't release many scary-looking Pokemon, but Annihilape hits home on that front for sure. If you saw this running around your local park or forest, I don't think you'd feel too comfortable. The newly introduced Primeape evolution is perhaps the most powerful Pokemon for an in-game playthrough, and it has been active on the competitive scene as well. A little less so since the power creep, but it's still got some viability. Its strong stats make it usable. Really, the only area where it lacks is special attack, which is perfectly fine since you're hitting on the physical side. And when you're using an attack, it's probably Rage Fist. It's the only Pokemon with access to the move, which becomes more powerful every time you get hit. So if you hit Annihilate, you better hit hard, because Rage Fist can become a huge problem to deal with if the Pokemon has been hit a couple times and hasn't fainted.
You should have gone for the head.
Bottom line, you won't like this ape when it's angry, except if it's on your team. Number 5, the starters. I mean, if we have a most impactful list, the starters have to be on it. Through the years, those are some of the Pokemon that you remember the most. Maybe not Meganium. Sorry. But I feel like the starters for this generation were really strong too. Meowscarada with 100 base power, grass move that always crits, Quaquaval with the ability to boost both speed and attack with Aqua Step and Moxie, and Skeledirge can run through opponents as Torch Song builds up. Unfortunately, they haven't seen a lot of competitive play, except for Meowscarada, who was getting some run early on. But they're starters, so you can't deny they're iconic. I used Meowscarada as my starter for Gen 9, and it definitely put in a lot of work for me. But Skeledirge with Torch Song boosting has really grown on me. Overall, they were probably middle of the pack starter designs. Not the best, not the worst, but they were all pretty fun to use in-game. Number 4, Wugtrio. Come on, you didn't think Wugtrio would be on the list, did you? Actually, number 4, Dondozo Tatsugiri. I feel like we're all going to remember little Tatsugiri jumping into Dondozo's mouth, and then an absolute monster of a Pokemon being born. The stat boosts just made the combination so powerful, and combining two Pokemon is pretty unconventional. Their solo existence isn't terribly memorable in this game, but the combining of powers was something I'll certainly remember. Number 3, Goldango. Pokemon number 1000 has to be on the list. Unique design, unique typing, unique ability, it fits all the criteria we're looking for. Plus, who hasn't had fun firing off Make It Rains at your opponents? Even the way you obtain this Pokemon is unique. Wandering around Paldea looking for 999 coins to evolve the base form Gimmighoul is pretty crazy and annoying, quite honestly, but not annoying enough to keep it off the list. Competitively, it's definitely been well used. It was really popular early on in Gen 9, went into hibernation, and then came back with a vengeance as people realized that the golden cheese stick is still phenomenal. And really, it was involved in your playthrough as much as you wanted it to be. Maybe you didn't feel like taking on the 999 coin challenge, or it was a staple from the start. Goldango, a well-deserved spot on this list. Number 2, Fluttermane and Iron Hands. I know they weren't really that involved for in-game playthroughs, but these two Pokemon have absolutely dominated the competitive scene. If you booted up a game online, chances are you battled against one of these two.
I am shocked! Shocked! Well, not that shocked.
Both very unique typings as well. I think there's only 1 or 2 other Ghost Fairy types out there, and Fighting Electric was just newly introduced this gen with Iron Hands and Palmont. The stat lines on Fluttermane and Iron Hands are really, really strong. The combination of speed and special attack and access to a spread move has made Fluttermane a menace to deal with, while Iron Hand's bulk, power, and access to Fake Out have made it a staple on many competitive teams. Design-wise, Iron Hands doesn't do a whole lot for me, but the crooked smile on Fluttermane is pretty funny. Number 1, Koraidon and Miraidon. The legendaries of these games were more involved than the typical legendaries in Pokemon games because you actually rode them the whole way through, saw cutaway scenes of them powering up and really cementing themselves as almost like your partner Pokemon for the journey. You couldn't actually battle with them until beating the game, but I feel like they were involved so much in the story that they deserved the number 1 spot on this list. They haven't been eligible for competitive play yet, but I have no doubt that when the time comes, they're both going to be absolute terrors to deal with. Koraidon can set up the sun and has some super hard-hitting moves. Miraidon sets up electric terrain and hits super hard as well. I love the powered-up look of Miraidon too. It's probably the best-looking future Pokemon from Gen 9. These two generated a lot of excitement for this generation, and in my eyes, when it's all said and done, they'll be the most impactful. That's my list. Let me know if I had any big omissions that should have made the top 10, but I feel like these are the Pokemon that impacted Gen 9 the most and the ones that we're going to remember too. Hope you all are having a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.